Hey, I'm Mike Lemon with ISTT's Work From Home series. Today we're going to be talking to Art McFadden, cyber cop and security engineer at ISTT. We're talking about really the prolific expansion of people working from home. Of course, with the pandemic, most people had to transition very quickly to working from home. But now, as we're going into the kind of new season, there's still a lot of issues going on where people will be working from home. And let's be honest, a lot of us are liking the ability to work from home. So real quick bio about myself. I was retired from the Bowling Green Police Department. I was a detective and forensic examiner. So I examined computers and cell phones for around 13 years. And I own another company that works in computers and forensics. And teaming up with ISTT to bring you this information on how you can work from home safely and how you can work from home better. So we're going to jump in here with Art today. How are you doing today, Art?
I'm doing excellent, Mike. How are you doing?
Doing good. Why don't you give the people a little bit of information about yourself and about kind of what we're going to be talking about in this four-part series.
It's great being here. My name's Art McFadden. I retired in 2015 as the Assistant Chief of Police in Franklin, Kentucky. And like Mike, I spent most of my career in the investigations unit. I served on the Electronic Secret Service Crimes Task Force with Mike and several others. And after retiring from Franklin, I became a computer information technology instructor for SkyCTC here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I am now the security and compliance officer for ISTT. And Mike, like Mike said, this is the first of 4 videos. But before we actually get into the topic today, which is actual connections and communications, let's talk, Mike, for a minute about what we've learned, how we kind of got here, and what the trends are and what we kind of anticipate is going to happen.
Sure. I mean, really, a lot of people were trying to figure out how they're going to work, how companies are going to continue to go on when the pandemic hit. And a lot of people were just said, here's a laptop. You got a cell phone, you got a home phone, hope you have internet out there, and go forth and do what you can. But now we're a few months into it, and it's really changing, not just having to work from home, but really desiring to work from home. And I think really the future is going to be a lot more people working from home or working remotely. So what's your kind of thoughts on that?
Even after we get a vaccination and we get past all this, and we're all, this is something that we'll never forget. But I think the lessons learned are, I don't believe we're ever going to go back 100% the way we were. I think we're going to see that increase of remote workers not drop down to the way it was before. And I think there's a lot of advantages. And I was talking to one of my coworkers here, and I got thinking about a snow day. And if you're a parent and there's a snow day and school's closed, your work may still be open. So if you did not have the ability to work from home, you're taking a sick day or a vacation day or something. So then that employer has lost you through no fault of your own, because someone's got to watch that child. The schools are closed that day. I think that we're going to see that there's some huge advantages. And in this 4-part series, we're going to look at some of the implementations that we saw worked great, and what I personally observed, and what I think the lessons are learned on these 4 different topics. But if there's anything that came out of this pandemic, is that we've proven to ourselves we can continue, and companies hopefully continued as well. We all know that there was an economic hit because of this, but if we can still be productive from the house, maybe you just saved that company's investment in the ability to work remotely. You may have just saved yourself.
Oh yeah, I think there's definitely the hybrid model is the future, working in the office and working from home a bit. So today we're talking about communication. So obviously communication is vital in an office, but it's one issue where it's one situation where if you and I are in the same office, I can just walk over to your cubicle to your office and we can talk about things. But in a situation where you're working from home and you're trying to communicate with people in the office or different businesses or customers, it's a big difference when you don't have the infrastructure that most companies have. So kind of run us down what we're going to be talking about today involving communications, and get into what people need to know to be able to work safer and better from home.
Yeah, sure. Now, when we talk about our connection, when you and I were children, it was a telephone, and that was the connection for business. You know, we did not have the internet. It was not out there yet. We did not have Zoom or Teams or anything along those lines. But now when we talk about standard business communications, it's completely changed. But what that relies on is the ability to have a good connection. By that, we're going to talk about internet connection and what that internet connection used to mean to you and what it means now and how vital and important it is. So there's a few different, when we talk about communications, let's break it down to 3 different ways. Email, phone, and there's 3 options within phones, and then audio video streaming. And we're going to talk about each one of those and kind of go over what our needs are going to be for those. And Mike, email, that's the easiest one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a great I don't need a really great connection, right?
Right.
If that email takes a moment longer to get to me because I do not have the greatest internet connection at my house, I'm probably not going to notice it. Nobody's going to notice it. So that one takes the least amount of resources, believe it or not. And we're going to talk about why here in a moment. So email, one of the most common ways of communication. And along with email, I would also put like your instant text messaging type stuff, things that are not streaming audio, video. And we'll talk about that means here in a minute. And then phone. Okay, so now phone, I pretty much think of phones in 3 categories. POTS. That's, Mike, you and I are about the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody out there around our age, this is the one we were raised on. Plain old telephone system. When we picked it up, it was a rotary. And then remember when touch tone came out? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Big stuff.
Yeah, you could hit the button and like make an actual selection. Like crazy technology.
And then the wireless, you could, as long as you didn't get too far away from the base, I mean, that was huge.
Oh, yeah, you could walk around the house and still talk on the phone instead of having to get that cord that was like 15 feet long and it was stretched because you're trying to have a conversation from the kitchen phone. And your younger siblings are yelling in the background. So that's POTS, plain old telephone system. Then the next thing I think about is phones. And Mike, when cell phones got more common, you or I were patrol units. And my first cell phone was a bag phone that took a lead acid battery that was normally used in VHS cameras. What was your first cell phone?
Those blue Nokias, the bricks, lasted forever. Probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You could hide behind that thing if you had to.
No doubt.
Yeah. And also the technology wasn't what it is. I had to put an antenna on top of my police car. I took it off my personal vehicle and stuck it on my police car every day because I got anywhere outside the city limits. That was the end of that. And then the third type of phone when I think about phones is voice over IP. And there are several ways to do that. And what that means is voice over internet protocol. We're using the internet to actually make these connections. And we're hearing that term voice over IP more and more, and not just in our businesses, but even at our homes. And sometimes we're doing voice over IP and we don't even realize it. So that's the one that's most commonly going to be currently set up in business. And there's some serious advantages to that. We'll talk about when we get to equipment, that if you're deploying voice over IP, you've got a lot of flexibility. So the voice over IP, if you look, this is one of our phones, and there's 2 connections back here. And they look like phone plugs, but they're not. They're actually the same type of connection called an RJ45 that you use with your computer. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later as to why that's so important. So that's a physical phone. A soft phone can be an app that you put on your cell phone or on your computer, either one. And we can set your cell phone, your soft phone app on your cell phone, so you don't have to have anything besides that one physical device. So when we say soft phone, it's usually we mean an app on our cell phone, but it could be an app on our computer. And then the last type of, when I think about common business communications, is streaming. Mike, right now we're using Zoom. I think that's Zoom. One of your favorite products. I've used Zoom before, Teams, and there are several others out there. And we use this for virtual meetings, presentations. It's great for when we are having a multiple person meeting and we're all at the house. That it's turned out to be a significant advantage to us.
And there can be some kind of hybrids to this, like Zoom. You know, I have an app on my phone. I can make phone calls. If I want to contact you, we can just make a voice call to a Zoom meeting and have that conversation as well. So it's
Absolutely.
kind of, there can be kind of different. It's not just one type is the only type, or one type is separate from everything else. Now they're kind of being a hybrid uh, apps and soft phones and voice over IP streaming services all in one.
Yep. The main thing to take away from that is we need a darn good connection,
Yeah.
especially for the streaming stuff. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. I had a great experience with Teams. I had a student that needed assistance. I had to make a grocery run, and I had Teams installed on my cell phone. Student saw I was online, contacted me. I was talking to my student on my way to go get some groceries. And otherwise, I would have missed that. That student would have either had to send me an email, or maybe I would have missed that student completely. So you're right. These are all different ones, but we still need good internet connection to do no matter what they are. So there's a couple of different things that define a good connection. And one is bandwidth and the other one is speed. But we're going to use our speed test as an indicator for our bandwidth. I don't want to get too in depth as to what the difference is between the terms, but let's just look at a speed test to see what kind of connection you've got, Mike.
All right, so we went to bing.com, typed in speed test, hit enter, came here, and to test your speed, you just have to hit start. All right, so we've got a couple different numbers down there. It says it downloads 80.43 Mbps and uploads 48.87 Mbps. Can you explain to them what that is?
That's your. You also see that other one that says ping, and
Yeah.
that less than 1 millisecond. That's excellent. So you see a download and an upload speed, and that's megabits per second. And what is important to realize is there is a difference between download and upload. Now, Mike, you're on a business connection, and I believe you're probably rated for 100 up and 100 down,
Mm-hmm.
which means up and down are the same. Now, if we did this test again, the ping is a response time, and then download and upload are actually how fast we're downloading and uploading. And if you notice, you've got different numbers than you had to run it the first time. Now, we're also streaming video while we're doing this, so we're probably not going to get the most accurate readings in the process.
I'll take 826. So
Yeah,
this is
that'd be
basically
great
the amount of information it can move
in a certain time frame. That's
right.
a great way of looking at it.
And so the higher that the megabytes per second is, the more you can have. Like the new stuff, the high speed, real high speed stuff now is like a gigabyte per second. But I'll cut back here to us. If you're working from home, kind of what standards should you be looking for? Like for me, myself, I live out in the sticks and I'm running off, MiFi's. So, if I know running Zoom, running these types of applications is not going to be good for me because I have, we're talking single digits megabyte per
Right.
second.
Yeah.
So if someone's looking to work from home, what do they need to look for and say, I need to have at least kind of this ballpark of number or higher to be able to work from home?
Sure. If you notice, most of our home plans, you're going to notice your download speed is faster than your upload speed in most residential ones. If you have an accurate speed test on it, or if you even look at your plan. So what you're going to want to do is to run an accurate test. You're going to want to make sure that you don't have to turn everything off in the house, but to get a good baseline without anybody streaming anything, run the speed test and do it a couple of times and see what your results are. Now, if your upload and download speed are the same or should be the same, that's called synchronous. In other words, it's both ways or same. Asynchronous is what most of us have at our residences, which means upload and download are rated for two different speeds. So most of the time, what we've been worried about is download speed. And the reason being is when you're streaming Hulu or any of those other streaming services or Sling TV, you're not pushing up a lot of information. You're pulling it down, okay? But now when we're doing audio, video, back and forth, any kind of streaming, exactly what we're doing right now, upload and download become relevant. Does that make sense? We got to worry about it more when we're pushing something back out.
Mm-hmm.
So
that'd be something for them to be like if they're on using Zoom or maybe one of the phones, the voice over IP phones, they're sending data and receiving data.
that's
So
correct.
that's going to be a big issue for them. Not only uploaded, if you're just like streaming Netflix, like you said, you only care about download. But if you're doing things to where you're reaching out to other people, or you're pushing things, then that upload is important too.
Right, it becomes more important. So the general, we're talking about some easy ways to make sure you're good to go. So Zoom, they recommend 2.5 megabits per second for group calls, and that's up and down. Teams, they recommend 2 megabits per second. Voice over IP, for every phone call going on, that's 100 kilobits per second. Okay, and what that means is, we're going to take that decimal place. We're going to keep moving around. But don't worry about the numbers. Know this: if you get anything 10 up and 20 down, you're in good shape. And here's why I came up with those numbers. 60 megabits per second download is high definition television for Hulu. Okay, we can change the resolution on our videos and lower it if we needed to make sure things like voice do not get interrupted. So we can actually kind of prioritize what's important. But just know this: if you have 10 down, 10 going up and 20 or greater going down, you're in good shape. Now, for comparison, Spectrum's here in Bowling Green, and their lowest tier package is 60 megabits per second download and 10 megabits per second upload. Okay, and that's up to 200 megabits per second, but they're stating no less than 60 is what they're going to.
So what the
your house
people have to really worry about is, okay, so you have 20 download and 10 up. This is great. So you have enough to do what you need to do. But if your kids online, they're going to be sucking up some of that bandwidth. So you need us not think about what you're doing and what you're going to be doing online, but also what's going on in your house. Because if you got one kid playing games online and another one's watching Netflix online, watching HD videos or 4K videos, then your 20 is now split between three people. So you may not have enough. So they really need to realize exactly what their family's using when they're doing it. It may be a time where you say, I need to get on this phone call, and you may be on the edge. Then it may be time to talk to your kid and say, listen, 20 minutes, get off the game, get off the Netflix, read a book, whatever you need to do, just schedule that time in there so you have that communication. Because the last thing you want to do is be on a sales call or a meeting and you keep dropping. It's pretty frustrating when you're doing that.
Absolutely. And you made up a good point. We're actually going to talk about that in another segment, and that's testing your equipment. So the speed test is great as a rule, a general guideline, but until you actually start deploying these things at the house, you don't want to worry about this on Monday morning when you're supposed to be on that sales call. You need to be testing these things, prior to that. And like you said, different times of the day, depending on what type of connection you have, who your ISP is or internet service provider, will determine it. But most of your newer technology, cable, generally speaking, unless you get doing some really wild stuff at your house, the basic cable package internet should be good to go. There's other different technologies out there like DSL, digital subscriber line. Sorry, and that's a different technology. It may be rated for different speeds. You'd mentioned that some places have gigabit connection at the house. Now you're really moving. So it's not just do the speed test, but it's also test while you've got other things going on at the house. And Mike, you talked about being out in the middle of nowhere land. So one of the last things I want to talk about before we wrap up this segment is, okay, what about the different ISPs? I told you most of the ISPs won't have any problems with your general household, home office type scenario. But you had mentioned that you're on a mobile hotspot using a cellular connection. The only solution I've got for you that one is if you fail either in trying different things at your house, you're going to have to contact your cellular provider. And that's true also for no matter who the ISP is. If you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting paid, or what you're paying for, you want to contact your internet service provider. But the biggest problems we see are, like you said, people trying to use that cellular connection to run their household. Can you imagine trying to do streaming videos on 3 different TVs for the kids and doing a voice over IP
Actually,
phone call?
I do, because we do. And it fails all the time.
Yeah, see, there you go. I bet you would love to have the lowest cable connection at your house, wouldn't you?
I'd be uptown at that point.
You wouldn't know what to do with yourself, man.
I'd be crazy. Well,
Yeah.
let's go and wrap this part up for the equipment piece, or the communications piece, and the next piece is going to be about equipment. What kind of things are we talking about in equipment?
We're going to talk about the next time we join up is your actual things that you use at home. Is it your laptop, your cell phone, voice over IP phone, and what equipment you use also will determine, or what products you use will also determine what you need on your equipment. So we're going to get into several things about the actual physical equipment at your house.
All right, excellent. All right, Art, I appreciate it, and we'll see you back here for the next one.